Hello, Internet. It's Marissa Bell here. I wanted to share with you today the 10 ways that my PTSD and mental health affect my parenting. I find on the internet that quite often you'll find these articles about like PTSD and parenting, and then it, talks about how it might be hard, but nobody ever actually talks about, how is it affecting your parenting and what symptoms are specifically affecting your parenting, and the struggle that you go through as a parent when you have, mental illness. So I'm coming to you today from the spray park. I brought my kids here so that they could play while I make this video. So that's why it's really loud, because it's summer and Canadians get short summers. So everybody's outside enjoying the sun with their kids today. So a lot of people who have PTSD, among other mental illness, really struggle with trust. As a parent, you have to learn how to trust your children, and you have to learn how to trust the other adults in their lives to keep them safe. This makes it really hard for big life transitions, like when my kids first started going to school. I had to leave them all day with, these teachers who are strangers, and I really had to, push through that part of me that didn't want to trust them and just want to keep my kids at home. And I actually did consider homeschooling because I don't trust anyone. But my kids fight a lot, and I don't think I could handle a full day of them together every day while teaching them, because they just get on each other's nerves too much. So I really had to push past my trust issues just to let them go to school. And that was really hard. They're older now, like my daughter is 11 and my son is 8. That's trust for the school is still kind of hard. But, I worked at my daughter's school last year, so I was able to get to know all of the teachers in the middle school campus. So that really helped a lot. And I know other parents there, and they check on my kids for me, and they fill me in, and, support staff fills me in on stuff, because my son does have a hard time at school sometimes. So I guess I've kind of had to build like a community to help with my trust issues there. Other things are like swimming lessons. Nothing terrifies me more than letting my kids go swimming. And I'm super aware of where they are all the time at the swimming pool. So I put them in swim lessons, but, I'm that parent who's sitting there, watching them. Or if I'm trying to trust the instructor, I'll bury myself in my phone, but I'm still checking on them regularly. And then that leads over to trusting my children to make good choices, and that I've instilled in them that it's important for them to, make good decisions, trust their instincts. We watch a lot of those videos from the 90s. I don't know if this is like just a Canadian thing, but there was this little cartoon. It was called Bert and Gert, Stay Alert, Stay Safe. So I make my kids watch those on YouTube. To teach them that, trust your instincts, that there are tricky people in this world. And I'm hoping that, as they hit their teen years, that I'll be able to have enough trust in them, that they will make good choices and know that they can always come to me with anything. So I guess it's just like me trying to have trust in them, but them also having trust in me. So I guess it goes two ways. But, as somebody with PTSD, and if you have it because of a, one-time traumatic event, or if it was, something that happened over and over again, a lot of us have like severe trust issues. And then that just rolls over into our parenting, and we have to find a way to work with it. So my number 2 is hypervigilance. So what that kind of means is that I'm hyper aware, or my instincts are like hyper aroused to what's going on all the time. That's why you'll notice that I pause a little bit when I'm talking during this video. And I actually have sunglasses on so I can look around and you don't notice. I brought my kids to this spray park, because, well, it's summertime and I want them to be outside and play. But I brought them to this specific one because it is fully fenced. There is one opening. I can see where the opening is, and that makes me feel safer. I kind of have a general idea of where my kids are right now. I can see one of them, which means the other one isn't far behind. They don't tend to drift too far away from each other. Oh yeah, there's the other one. Yeah, and that helps me feel safe. So, my kids don't know that that's how I plan these things. Hi, sweetie. You're wet. Why don't you get your towel in your bag? Right there. So sorry. They don't know that I bring them to places like this with, these types of things in mind. But I do, and it's exhausting. I plan out everything mentally to make sure that I feel the most comfortable and that I feel the safest about where we go. And it is just the most exhausting thing ever. And then to try and hide it from my kids, because I want them to not feel restricted and I want them to grow. And Rowan, can you get off your sister's towel so she can use it? Thank you. I want them to have like a normal childhood. That's Rowan. That's my son. And I don't want them to ever feel like they've been held back, and especially held back because of their mom's mental health. That would just kill me to think of that. But it's hypervigilance in anything, they go out into the neighborhood and, I'm trying to let them go to the park. You can go to the park down the street for an hour by yourself. This is what time I expect you to come back. And those moments are really hard because, I'm putting a lot of trust into my children, but then I'm hyper aware while they're gone. And I'm pacing my house, wondering where they are. And then if they're like 2 minutes late because they suck at telling time, I'll start going down the street looking for them, and then I'll see them, but then I'll run back around the corner so they don't see that I've come to look for them, so that they know that I'm trusting them. But, I panic all the time, and it makes parenting really hard. So number 3 is intrusive memories or thoughts. So as somebody with PTSD, traumatic things have happened to me. And sometimes they just pop into my head out of nowhere, and sometimes they're triggered there by, events that are happening in our lives, or in the news or whatever. And then somehow my brain swaps them around and makes these intrusive memories and puts my kids into the situations. And that's traumatizing in and of itself. For example, when I was growing up, the 2 neighborhood kids that I played with died in a tragic accident, and I've never forgotten it. They were my first friends. I even worked with their mom years later when I was adult and then pregnant with my daughter. Sometimes I'll have dreams or thoughts and imagine that kind of stuff happening, but it's my kids. I've had quite a few dreams like that with a similar theme. And put my kids are put into those situations, and that's super stressful. Number 4, we'll roll over into that, recurring nightmares. So I have recurring nightmares. They all have the same theme. So even if the dream isn't exactly the same underlying theme runs through all of them. And then my kids are inserted into these dreams now, which is extremely unsettling to imagine the traumatic things that happened to you that caused your PTSD happening to your children, and dreaming about it, and when you're sleeping you think, that's the place where you're going to be able to get away from those things, and that's just not always the case. Your subconscious is an asshole, and it likes to remind you of terrible things while you're sleeping, and then mixes your kids into it just to make you feel that much shittier. Number 5, when my kids reach certain ages or milestones of when things happen to me, that can be super, super triggering. There was something happened in my daughter's school last year, and it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks that, oh my God, she's getting to the age where it first happened to me. And I just couldn't come back from it for a while. Like, it was really, really hard, and I was thinking about it all the time. And even now I'm thinking about it all the time. You know, she's coming up to puberty soon, and her body's going to start changing, and people are going to start looking at her differently, you know, in particular, you know, boys and men. And, you know, that terrifies me. And, like, of course I want her to have, like, the normal, like, teen experience of having a crush and first loves and all that. But, like, now as a parent, I have to find the balance between letting those things happen and not letting what happened to me get in the way. Because, you know, I don't want to scare her or anything, but I want to be honest. And, you know, it's super difficult. I'm thinking about it all the time. It's on the forefront of my brain right now. And I'm just kind of trying to navigate it, talk to my therapist about it. She's pretty helpful with that. Number 6, trouble sleeping. Oh, that is the hardest part of any mental illness. Like, you feel tired and drained all the time, and then you can't sleep properly. It's the worst. And every parent knows that if they can't sleep, they aren't a great parent later in the day. You know, it makes me short on patience. I'll wake up from a dream and think that it's, you know, it's real. So I wake up, you know, anxiety, tight chest, feeling sick. And then I somehow have to pretend that everything's okay and get my kids ready for school. You know, and that's really, really hard. There are some days, you know, actually there's a lot of days that my kids are late to school, and it has nothing to do with them and everything to do with me. Like, sometimes I just can't get out of bed because I'm trying so hard to calm myself down and try and get that feeling out of my chest to go, reminding myself that no, I'm not dying. It is not a heart attack. You had a terrible dream and you woke up with a panic attack, which is no way to wake up ever. So my kids do suffer, you know, a little bit because of that, and that just that like breaks my heart some days. And you know, like like when they don't have school, like right now, I'll just like lie in bed in the morning and let them, you know, on their screens or whatever. I know other families have less screen time than we do, but you know, I need to use it as a way to just to function. I need that time in the morning sometimes to just calm myself down and put myself in a better headspace so that I can be the best parent that I can be for my kids. Yeah. You know, number 7, I really can't be alone. It really sucks. I actually have a service dog for that. I didn't bring him to the spray park today because I have my kids. I'm totally fine if I have my kids. Well, mostly totally fine if I have my kids and we're out and about, or if I have my boyfriend, or I'm with, you know, a friend or my sisters, or if I'm going out to meet someone, if I'm going to the mall to do, you know, service dog training. Like, I'm okay. But because of things that have happened to me, I really, really struggle with being alone. And it's not okay for me to rely on my kids to fill that need. Now, I've been really good, and I think I've hidden it from my kids that I don't need them, but I know that I need them around. I know that I can't go to the grocery store by myself without them, or without the dog, or without my boyfriend. And if I do go to the store without any of those things, because it just happens that I have to run to the store and, you know, I can't take the dog for whatever reason, I have to have things put in place so that I can do that trip. Usually it's headphones, if I have headphones in, or if I have something in my hands, or I wear a backpack on my back. I don't know what it is about the backpack, but it makes me feel way safer. So yeah, and you know, like, as somebody with PTSD, I don't want my kids to ever feel like they need to be responsible for my mental well-being in any way. Like, it's not on anybody but me. And you know, I don't want anyone in my life to feel like they need to help heal my trauma, because they can't, and it's not fair for me to rely on them to help me through that kind of stuff. So number 8, overwhelming guilt or shame. Yeah, that's a big one. Holy, do I ever feel like the worst mom ever all the time? And even just doing this video and talking about all the ways that my mental health really does affect my parenting, and I'm trying really hard to not let it affect my kids, but I'm sure it is. And I feel pretty shitty about that, like, all the time. But I'm trying. And I feel like I'm failing them. I'm sure a lot of parents feel like they're failing their kids. And if you don't, then tell me your secrets. Because I'd like to know. But my kids love me and I love them. And I think that's what matters in the end, really. That we have a good relationship. And number 9, when things happen in the community that happen to me, I have a really hard time afterwards, like I'm being triggered by something. And like I can't control what's happening in the world, and sometimes I feel really overwhelmed by that. But, I try to use those situations because my kids are smart. They know when something's wrong. My son in particular is pretty good at knowing when something is wrong. I think I'm good at hiding it, but he's insightful. And he'll ask me what's going on. And, I don't ever overshare with my kids. They don't need to have any adult burdens put on them at all. And, but I'll share, like, I saw this in the news and it made me really sad. And I haven't told them what happened to me. And, that's something that I think about. I don't know when I would. But yeah, it's really hard to kind of like hide that part, not let it affect your parenting, and just pretend like everything is okay. When you're kind of falling apart on the inside. It's really like this ongoing struggle. Okay, and number 10, figuring out how to parent so that I break the cycle. That's a big one. I have no idea if I'm doing it. I'm trying really hard. I get help for myself. I put things in place for myself to help myself heal. I'm honest with my kids in age-appropriate ways. I hope that I'm giving them the lessons that they need to be outstanding teenagers and outstanding adults and productive members of society and all that. But I find, So I find that a lot of people who have mental illness and they become parents, and depending on the mental illness or, what trauma happened to them, that, breaking the cycle is really hard. And sometimes it's easier to just stay within that cycle, or when you are trying to break it, that you go like extreme one way or the other. So you're either, let it control you so much that you have really strict rules in your house and such, and you're watching your kids, like a helicopter parent. I guess that's the best way to describe it, like a helicopter parent. And then you go the complete other way, and you're extremely lenient, and your kids have no structure at all. And you tell them, like, you overshare with them, and you tell them everything. And it's not age-appropriate stuff that you should be sharing. So for myself, I'm trying to find that balance in between. How do I not restrict my kids so much that they don't get to have, a childhood, they don't learn proper risk assessment, they don't learn how to trust their instincts, or I go completely the other way and, tell them everything that happened to me and don't let them have rules or whatever, whatever the other side of that would be. Trying to find like this road down the middle so that my kids can grow up normally and hopefully have a childhood that they don't need to recover from. That is my biggest goal in parenting is, even though I have PTSD among other mental illnesses and diagnoses, that I don't destroy their childhood because of it, and that they don't have to heal. Like, my son already struggles with mental illness, and that's been a pain in the butt just trying to get him help, which kills me, to be honest, because I don't know if it's, is it something I've done or is it hereditary? I don't know. And then, with my daughter, she has anxiety sometimes, and that seems to be new in the past year. And that could also just be, puberty and emotions are changing and things are changing. So, anyways, this has been kind of cathartic, saying all this stuff out loud. This is the way that my mental illness affects my parenting. And if your mental illness is affecting your parenting, you're not alone. We are all working towards this together. You can leave a comment below. And good luck. You're rocking it.